In this section, we're going to be talking about Lyme disease. So let's just start from the outward in. So first, where is Lyme disease most commonly found? It's most commonly found in the northeastern U.S. Okay, so northeastern U.S. All right, let's go one step deeper. It is found on the tick Ixodes. Okay, this is the vector. Okay, Ixodes, let me write to the side. It's also a vector for Babesia. Okay, so this bug is found on the tick Ixodes, and on that tick, you will find the bug. If you don't know already, it's Borrelia. Burgdorferi. This is the bug. Okay, so let's just review just really quickly. So this is the location here, northeastern U.S. It's found on Ixodes. This is the vector, and the bug that causes it is Borrelia burgdorferi. Let me zoom out for a second. So the vector is Ixodes, but there's also a reservoir, which actually the tick isn't the reservoir. Okay, the reservoir is actually mice and deer, and then the Ixodes is the vector, which takes it from the mice and deer and gives it to humans. So this is just something to keep in mind. Okay, let's zoom back in. So we have our bug, which is Borrelia burgdorferi, and there's 3 stages to this disease, and let's just talk about the first one. So the first one, there's 2 things. The first thing is something called erythema chronicum migrans, okay? And this is a pathognomic lesion for this. So if you see this, then you know that this is definitely the disease. So let me just draw it out what it looks like for you. So pretty much it's a target-shaped rash with it's a red target-shaped rash with a target shape. So this is the central clearing. So it has a central clearing here and like a red spot. This middle spot is usually pretty hard and indurated, and this outside will also be red. Basically, it starts off like this, and then the bug kind of migrates out like that, and then you eventually get this, and that is called erythema chronicum migrans. Okay, and so that's one thing that you get, and the second thing that you also get, we're still in the preliminary phase here. The second thing that you get is flu-like symptoms. But again, if you see that erythema chronicum migrans, then you know you're pathognomic, you know you're dealing with Lyme disease. And so that is the primary stage. So that is the first stage of Lyme disease. Okay, let's move on to the second stage. So the second stage is composed of 2 main things that you want to think of. The first is Bell's palsy. Okay, this can be neurologic symptoms everywhere, but Bell's palsy is like the most common manifestation. And the second thing is AV block. Okay, so that's the second thing that can happen. Cardiac and neurologic manifestations, and that is secondary Lyme disease. That can happen weeks to months later. And finally, the last stage. There's 3 stages. The last stage this is kind of a chronic. This is the chronic stage. So this first one was the initial symptoms, right? And then this is called the early persistent stage, and now this is the late persistent stage, and this can happen for years, okay? And in this stage, you get chronic mono or polyarthritis, okay? And the polyarthritis is usually migrating. So you can either have a chronic monoarthritis, and the most common location is actually the knee, or you can have a polyarthritis, which is migrating. Okay, so those are the 2 ways it can manifest itself. You can also get mood changes. Okay, so there's 2 neurologic. The first one, in the early phase, you only really get Bell's palsy. You don't get the mood changes. But in the third stage, the one that I'm talking about right now, this is where you can get mood changes. This is called neuroborreliosis, I think. So this is the third stage. And if you have a hard time remembering this, there is an acronym, that you can. There is an acronym that you can look at. I don't know why this is giving me problems right now. Hold on a second. Oh, sorry about that. We had some technical difficulties. But so as I was saying, there's an acronym you can use to remember this. And that's acronym BAKE. So you can think about baking a key lime pie. And this B stands for Bell's palsy. The A stands for arthritis. The K stands for actually cardiac block. And the E stands for the erythema chronicum migrans. They're not in order, so I don't actually like to use it, but I think this isn't that hard to remember, that we have these 3 stages. So let's just talk about the treatment really quick. The treatment here, I like to think that if the location of this is in the Northeast, I like to think that the treatment is kind of like DC. I don't know. It's not really the Northeast, so I don't know, but it kind of helps me remember it. But remember DC. The first one is doxycycline, and the second one is ceftriaxone. So if you just remember doxycycline, ceftriaxone, and then you can also and then you just remember that's really what will stop this disease. And remember, the erythema chronica migrans is pathognomic, so you want to start treatment immediately. So it looks like I'm having trouble with zooming in and stuff, but I'll just do a quick review. So location, Northeast U.S. is where you found it. Is where you find it. The vector is Ixodes, okay, and the reservoir is mice and deer. That's important to know. So the vector is Ixodes, the reservoir is mice and deer. The bug is Borrelia burgdorferi. The first stage is the erythema chronicum migrans and flu-like symptoms, and that's what that looks like. It's a target-shaped rash. The second, you have Bell's palsy and AV block, and then the third stage, you have chronic arthritis, which can either be monoarthritis involving the knee or migratory polyarthritis. You can also use the mnemonic Baker-Key Lyme Pi, standing for Baker-Key Lyme Pi, standing for Bell's palsy, arthritis, cardiac block, and erythema chronicum migrans. And the treatment is DC or doxycycline and ceftriaxone.